Hello, Seekers. Thank you for joining me today. This is going to be a replay of episode 2 of the hostile solo fast response mission. I apologize for how badly that mission went. That was my first time engaging with the combat in this system, and it looked deceptively easy on paper, but it was not as easy as I thought. And while I still don't think it's a terribly complicated system, there are a lot of different pieces of information that you need to put together. And so, yeah, as I said, it's kind of deceptively simple. So what I'm actually going to be doing right now is a redo of that episode, and that episode will be it'll become unlisted, and I'll put the link to it in the description if for some reason you would want to watch it, maybe to see how not to play the game, but hopefully this episode is going to completely replace that one, and we'll have a more satisfying and correct combat, and hopefully it will also be more entertaining as well. But yeah, the focus of this episode is just to replay that combat, and I'll get you caught up to speed with the situation where the Marines are at, where the recon squad is at. But first, I will be using the Cepheus Universal combat rules, and they are, fairly more complicated than Hostile Solo. And Hostile Solo does actually tell you in the book, when you're looking at combat, that if you have the Hostile rules or the Cepheus engine, you could use those more detailed mechanics if you would like to, because this is more of a quick play version. And I don't have anything against this version. I think it's actually kind of nice that they streamlined this, and that they kind of thought about making things easier for the solo player, and actually I don't have any real problem with that. But I figure that for me personally, because I do enjoy combat quite a bit in any kind of RPG, be it a video game or a tabletop RPG, I would prefer to spend my time to learn the more detailed system that is in Cepheus Universal, since I do have access to that. So that is actually how I will proceed with combat for the remainder of this mission, which will of course have probably a third episode, maybe a fourth episode. We'll see how long it takes to complete the mission. Definitely, if you have a very good grasp of the rules, it probably wouldn't take very long to complete the mission. And that is kind of a nice thing actually about Hostile, is that you can go through some pretty interesting and detailed missions, and I think you can do it pretty quickly if you're familiar with the rules. It's a game that really kind of moves along quite well. All right, so with that out of the way, we're looking at the situation of the Marines. So this was explained in the original episode 2, but I'll go ahead and explain it here now so that you don't have to go back and watch that one. The Marines were covertly inserted. They were paradropped onto Medusa, and they were dropped basically on the edge of the thicker forest area. So they're roughly maybe 10 miles away from the logging camp. And if you've seen episode 1, then you'll be familiar with what the overall situation is, so I won't go into that again. But so the Marines are dropped roughly 10 miles away, and they are attempting to be inserted and not attract any attention to themselves. And what ended up happening is that I made a roll for a situation roll, and they got the worst result, which I believe was a 1. And that's the worst result. So it resulted in basically a worst case scenario type of event, which I determined at this point the worst case scenario would be that the Marines are immediately ambushed by the apex predator of Medusa, which is the drop chop. And these guys are they're somewhat deadly, I would say, to people who are not Marines. They would be pretty deadly, but to battle-hardened Marines that are well trained and armed and armored, they're maybe not that deadly. They're a little bit more of a nuisance or an annoyance, and certainly the Marines don't appreciate being ambushed. And I am gonna replay that particular role, but we're gonna start right here, right now, with them being attacked. So once again, the worst case scenario has happened, and we're gonna start off right away with them being attacked by the drop chop. And the drop chops like to attack if they have surprise, and when they do not have surprise, they run away. So it says here in the description that typically what they do is they drop down out of the forest canopy, and like a praying mantis, they essentially claw to death or decapitate their prey, and then they, eat their prey. But if for some reason that doesn't go well, they tend to run away immediately, because they thrive on the element of surprise when taking down their prey. So we will see how that goes for our Marines this time, following the combat rules from Cepheus Universal, and hopefully making quite a few less mistakes, because I pretty much got almost everything wrong that you could get wrong in that combat. Okay, so we're here at the combat rules, and we're going to look at initiative. And probably in most cases, initiative would actually be an opposed check or an opposed roll, and so each side would have different modifiers that they would put together to determine how they're going to make that roll. Now, in this case, I've decided that due to the fact that we rolled the worst case scenario situation, we are going to be ambushed. But because these Marines do have the recon skill, I am giving them the opportunity to possibly save themselves at the last minute using their recon skill. And I think the better way to play it from reading through this is that I should look at the group as a whole. And here we have where it says that one character has a recon of 1 or more, you would have a +1 modifier. And I think because this is a group of trained Marines, Recon Marines, and everyone in the group actually has at least a +1 of Recon, and we actually have one member with a +2. I think it's pretty fair to give them a +2 bonus, because these guys are, like I said, they're well trained, and every single person on the team has the Recon skill of at least 1, if not 2. So what that's going to mean is they're going to have a -3 modifier due to the ambush. But they are going to have a +2 modifier for the fact that everyone on the team is well trained in recon. And even if the drop chops are going for buttons, and they're going for moose, going for these two, I think that the other members also have a chance of possibly noticing what is going on before the attack happens, maybe at the last second. So what we're going to start off with is a 2d6 roll. We want to get the 8+ roll, and with the +2 modifier and the -3 for ambush modifier, we're gonna have a -1 to our roll. So we're gonna go ahead and make that roll, and it'll be a -1. So we have rolled a 9, and that is going to be an 8 with the -1. So what that is going to mean is that the Marines do notice the drop chops at the last second before they're able to come down and attack them. So what that will mean for the Marines is that they will be able to do like a parry, because they'll be able to set up their defense. So the drop chops are still going to get their attack, but the Marines will have a chance to parry it. And all of the Marines do carry a combat knife, but they also have their rifle, which you can also parry with a rifle as well. So we will play it that way when the drop chops attack. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to have the melee combat, and the drop chops are dropping in, of course, right next to them. So they're basically in kind of the personal or close range. And so we're going to want to roll for their melee combat first, but the Marines will be able to parry. So we have the parrying rules here, which we'll look at as we do that. So now with the drop chops, we need to make sure that we take into account that they have a +2 dex modifier. So what their potential damage is going to be 1d6 plus 4, because they're going to have the +2 and then the +2 for the dex. So that's going to be 1d6 plus 4. And they also have a +1 with strength, so that's going to give them a +1 to their melee attack. So they're going to be rolling for a they're going to be rolling for an 8 for their melee attack, but they also have a +1 to that. And we can see on this little cheat sheet here. Let's look at melee. So they get a plus skill for brawling or blade. So now these guys don't have brawling or blade, but they do have a +1 to their strength. So we will use that. But actually, I guess they could use dexterity as well. So that's actually important to look at. So they could have. I don't know if that would be okay. So it says or, so it's going to be strength or dexterity. So maybe we can go with dexterity because that would be their highest bonus. So really, the only thing they need to roll is they only need to roll a 6 or better, and they will be successful in their attack. So yeah, so it's going to be a dex modifier if it's an animal or an exomorph. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and roll for the first drop chop here, attacking Moose. But we can also take the parrying into account, and he's going to make an average melee combat roll and add in the dex modifier. And if failed, the attacker still inflicts damage on the defender, and if successful, the armor value of the object will block the attack if the incoming damage is equal or lesser than the object's armor value. And if it exceeds the armor value of the object, then whatever damage exceeds the armor value is still inflicted on the defender. Okay, so now this is something that would actually be really useful if you weren't wearing any armor. But if we were to defend with our rifle or our combat knife, then those things could actually be damaged by trying to defend with him. And because our characters are wearing combat armor, which has an armor value of 11, we might want to actually not defend with the rifle or with the combat knife. But it is a little bit risky because I suppose that your combat armor could be damaged. I'm not sure about that actually. So that's another thing that it just gets deeper. The combat just gets deeper. I don't know if your combat armor can be damaged if the armor is hit all the way through all of the armor values. So if anybody knows that, let me know. But yeah, so I think in this case, because we are heavily armored wearing our combat suits, we might as well just go ahead and not attempt to parry. So in this particular case, we're not going to want to do it. But in a lot of other cases where you're not so heavily armored, this might actually be a much better option because then you are not going to die. So all right, we'll just roll for the drop chops melee attack here. And that's an 8, so they are well over what they needed. And with their bonus, they're going to have a 10. And every point over 8 would also be bonus damage. Now, I don't know. That's what they call. That's what it's called, effect. I don't know if effect actually applies to creatures, but I think it would be only fair to apply it to creatures as well. So in this case, it's actually going to be a 1d6 plus 6 damage. All right, and that's a 3, and that's going to be a total of 9 damage. So if we look at Moose, his armor is 11 with the combat suit, and so that's not going to get through. It's not going to get through, and that's not going to actually affect his endurance. But that was still quite a heavy blow, dealing 9 damage, and I think the majority of people walking around are not going to have that much armor. So this is just a benefit of being a Marine here, but normally a blow of 9 would be pretty heavy damage for anyone that's going to receive that kind of damage. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead to the next attack here on buttons, and we'll go ahead and roll for the attack roll. And that's going to be a roll of 12. So that's a very, very good roll for the drop chop, and then with their bonus, that's actually going to be a roll of 14. So that's an effect score of 6. So that's going to be 1d6 plus 8 damage there. So let's roll the 1d6. So that's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11. So that is going to be 11 damage. And in this case, that's going to be exactly equal to the amount of armor that she has. So if we look at armor, let's see how that's going to affect. So armor reduces the total weapon damage by the value of the armor being worn at the time, and it will reduce the incoming damage, but often some damage is still suffered through blunt force trauma. If the damage that penetrates is still significant, this indicates the bullet struck some unarmored part of the soldier's body, and it is a generalized defense against generalized attack. A hit with effect of 6+ always inflicts at least 1 point of damage regardless of the target's armor. Okay, so was this an effect of 6+? I believe it was. What was the effect? Let's see, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so it was an effect of 6 or higher. So it's always going to inflict at least 1 damage. So in this case, 11 points would be absorbed by the armor, but then 1 point would get through. So Buttons is going to take 1 point of damage to her endurance, and that's going to lower her endurance to 8 right now. And after taking that very heavy blow from the drop chop, and once again that brings up another point of, if you take the full effect of armor damage, does it actually damage the item? I think we could look at the. I think we could go back here and look at the pairings. So if the incoming damage exceeded the AV of the weapon, then we lower its AV by 1 point permanently and carry on with combat. When it reaches 0 in AV, then the weapon breaks. So I guess we could say, now this is, the combat suit is not a weapon, but I think it would be nice to reflect the fact that the combat suit took such a heavy blow. So I think we should go ahead and lower the armor value to 10. So it has now been permanently lowered. The armor value has now been permanently lowered to 10 due to taking that heavy blow to the armor. And I don't know if that would be officially how you play it, but I think I would definitely make that house rule, because I think it's worth doing something to represent the fact that it was a very, very heavy blow there. Okay, so now everyone is aware of the bugs, and they are able to go ahead and attack back. And so with the bugs being in very, very close melee range, I think that both Moose and Buttons would actually probably go for maybe a combat knife here, because they're really in the personal range. And I believe there may be actually a penalty for firing a weapon that close, because they are holding assault rifles, and the assault rifle range is going to be a little bit different here. Let's see. Okay, so an assault rifle has a long range. So let's see if we have any kind of negative modifier for firing. I mean, I guess we could say that would be like firing into hand-to-hand combat. Now we do have penalties for when it's beyond the range band. Oh, okay, point blank. So we actually get a bonus for point blank. So maybe we do not want to use the combat knife here. So, all right, we get a bonus for point blank. So we want to use that then. Yeah, I think that could go either way, whether there would be a penalty or a bonus for firing at such a short range. Obviously, something like a shotgun, of course, would be better for that than an assault rifle. But okay, so we're gonna roll for for Moose to do his attack on the drop chop, and because he has just been attacked by this thing, Moose, I think, is going to react, with quite a lot of rage here. So I think he's going to want to go for a 10-round burst, which is going to give him 3 chances to hit. And with the point blank, that's going to be a +2 bonus to his attack roll. And then he also has a gun combat of 1, so he's going to be getting a +3 bonus to his attack roll here. So let's see if he can get at least an 8. All right, so he got an 8, and then with his +3 bonus, that's going to be an 11. And we could also apply dexterity, but he does not have a dexterity high enough to get a bonus. So with 11, that's going to be an effect of 3. So that's going to mean 3 extra damage on the damage roll. So we could go ahead and do the damage roll, which on the M8 battle rifle is going to be 3d6 plus 2. So in this case, it's going to be 3d6 plus 5. So we're going to have a total of 10 damage with that roll of 5 right there. So another thing that I did wrong last time was that I used the hit charts for creatures based on different sizes, and here we actually already have full stats for the creature. So we have the strength, the dex, and the endurance. So if the creature takes 10 points of damage, that's going to drop his endurance down to 0, which is going to mean that he's wounded, and he'll also be stunned for 1 round. And there is also an injury table. I don't know if creatures roll in the injury table, but there is an injury table there. But anyway, in any case, he's going to be stunned for 1 round, and his endurance is now down to 0. So let's go ahead and keep track of that. So the drop chop 1 and the drop chop 2. And the drop chop 1 has taken 10 points of damage, so his endurance is now 0. And we also have 4 more points of damage, so that can be applied to the strength or the dexterity. And I guess we'll go ahead and apply it to dexterity. So his dex is now going to be 10. And then he is now going to be stunned for 1 round, but Moose still has 2 more attack rolls that he can make. So he can probably finish off this guy right now. All right, so that's going to be a 4 on the attack roll, and then he also has a +1 bonus for the gun combat and a +2 bonus for the point blank. So with the +3 bonus, that's only going to give him a roll of 7. So that's going to be a failed roll right there. And then now he's rolled 8, and then he's going to have +3. So that's going to be 9, 10, 11 there. And then that's going to be a +3 effect. So we roll for damage. And that's going to be 10, 11, 12, 13. That's going to be 13 points of damage. And that's going to lower the drop chop probably to where he's just about dead. So let's see. So that's going to take the next that's going to take the dex down to 0, and then his strength will lose 3 points, so that's going to be down to 6. So at this point, the drop chop has 2 attributes that are down to 0. So what is that going to mean? So with 2 characteristics at 0, the drop chop is unconscious and seriously wounded. And So they are also in shock. All right, so really that this drop chop is on death's doorstep, and if they want to just leave him there, they could. They probably don't really need to finish him off, and it might be the better thing to not do that in order to save on ammo. Okay, so now Buttons is going to do her attack. Now she is not going to do a 10-round burst, and the reason for that is that the battle rifle has a recoil of 7, and if you do a 4-round burst, you have a +1 recoil, so that would be 8, which is the same as her strength. But if you go to a 10-round burst, you have a 9 recoil, so that would be over her strength, which would mean a -1 to her attack roll, so we don't want to do that. So she's going to do a 4-round burst. And what kind of bonuses was she going to get? So she's going to get a +1 to gun combat as well, and she's also going to get another +2 for point blank. So that's only going to be 7, so that's not going to be successful, but she'll get one more chance. Okay, so that's going to be 10 right there. So she's going to have an effect 2, and we'll roll for damage. And oh yeah, the damage. Let's see. I think I did the damage wrong. Okay, the damage is 3d6. It's not. Yeah, 3d6. So we're going to roll 3d6. And that's going to be 10, 11, and an effect of 2, I believe it was. 11 plus 2, so it's going to be 11 plus 4. So that's going to be 15 damage there. And so this drop chop is going to be, it's going to be hurting pretty bad here as well. The endurance will now be down to 0, and then he's still going to take another 9 points, so the dex will be down to 5. And yeah, that one is hurt quite badly as well. All right, now we have DJ here, who could go ahead and he could make his attack, and I think considering that the drop chop has been wounded pretty badly, we could probably just go for a 4-round burst here and maybe not do a 10-round burst. But DJ is going to get a -2 for firing into melee combat, so we have to take that into account. So that's going to offset things a little bit. And also, DJ is not at point blank range, so he's not going to get the plus point blank bonus there. So he's just going to get the +1 for his gun combat, but he's going to have the -2 for firing into melee, so it's going to ultimately be a -1. So let's see if he can successfully attack here. And that's a 10, which is going to be a 9, so that's good. He succeeded, and it's going to be an effect of 1. Let's roll for damage. Oh, that's going to be a 3d6. And that's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I believe, with the effect. And then 13, 14 with the damage bonus. So it's going to be 14 damage to this drop chop here. And he's only got 11 points left of his attributes. So that is going to mean that he is dead. So this drop chop here is dead, and we can go ahead and have Sarge attack the other one. So Sarge is going to be the same thing. He's going to get +1 for gun combat, but he's going to have a -2 for firing into melee. And that's going to be an 8, which is -1 is going to be a 7, so that's not going to succeed. And then he's going to roll a 9 there, which is going to be an 8. So there'll be an effect of 0, but he will successfully attack. And then that's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's going to be 13 damage to the Drop Chop 1, who only has 6 strength left. So the Drop Chop 1 is also dead now. All right, so the Marines did pretty good job there taking care of these Drop Chops. Let me know, guys, if I played anything wrong. Definitely, I would like to know if there's a way that you like to play your armor being damaged, or if there's something in the rules that I'm missing here. There certainly could be. One thing that I realized when looking at the inventory of all of our characters is that even though we do have DJ with a medical skill, I did not bring any kind of med kit, so we're not going to have any med kit going forward. So hopefully nobody needs a med kit from this point. But you know, Buttons did just suffer 1 damage to her endurance. But this mission also is limited to 6 hours, which is something else that I kind of overlooked, because we only have 6 hours of time in our environment suit, in our combat suit. So they really need to get in and get out. And what I went ahead and guessed is that the paradrop took about 5 minutes, and then the combat is about 5 minutes for everything, for all the dust to settle. So far their time on mission is 10 minutes, and so they've only got 5 hours and 50 minutes left to wrap up the entire mission and get back to the extraction zone, to the EZ. So join me next time, guys, in episode 3, and thank you very much for watching this redo of the combat in episode 2 using the rules from Cepheus Universal.